so we can get this battle going. So Jeff Hoogland, you see there on the left, he's number 1 on our leaderboard coming off of his 2 buys on All in Red. Ellison Berryhill is on Teamer Delver. And Jeff's going to start off with a Land, a Simian Spirit Guide, and a Chalice of the Void for 1. So this is going to be very good against Ellison if he doesn't have Force of Will. And it looks like he doesn't.
Is game. GG. So it looks like the only card that Ellison can cast is going to be Tarmogoyf, Force of Will, Daze. I guess he also has 2 Dismember, but that is certainly not enough to work with. And this is basically over.
So Ellison's just going to Volcanic Island pass back. Jeff has a Sandstone Needle and passing back. Ellison does have a Wasteland, but he's not going to cash it in on that Sandstone Needle just yet. So Jeff has access to 5 mana this turn just off his lands if he has something like a City of Traders. So there's going to be 5. This could be, there's 6, and we have an Inferno Titan, all on turn 3.
Yeah, pretty sweet. So basically, we saw the Chalice essentially lock Ellison out of the game for the most part, and now this Titan is going to do the heavy lifting of actually winning the game. The other thing that's notable is this Titan is something that is going to be able to disrupt Ellison's board, even if he was able to develop one. So let's imagine the Chalice isn't there, Ellison has a Delver, this Inferno Titan is going to be able to just shoot that down.
Yeah, so the Inferno Titan is going to deal 3 damage to Ellison when it enters the battlefield. It's also going to get that same trigger when it attacks, so it's going to end this game very quickly, and Ellison is just done. It's not even going to give him the chance. That Chalice for 1, just going to be the nail in the coffin.
Jeff, the Master Brewer, is just too fast, too furious. What a powerhouse. He looks like such a nice guy, but then you play him, and you might as well write out your obituary or something, because you're going to leave that table a dead nerd.
So let's go ahead and take a look at the sideboards here, as Jeff is going to take game 1 very quickly with All in Red. He does have another copy of Chandra Flamecallers. If 1 wasn't enough, we got a second. 2 Goblin Rabblemaster, 2 Magus of the Moon, 2 Pyroclasm, 2 Shattering Spree, and 4 copies of Trinisphere in Jeff's sideboard. What do you think our Master Wizard here is going to bring in?
So I think there's a couple different ways he could go about this. He could try to become a little more threat dense, or he could become a little bit more disruption dense. The Trinisphere is certainly a good card against the Delver deck. The Delver deck is really light on mana, and it is predominantly all 1 mana spells. And Trinisphere, which Jeff could potentially play on turn 1, would make it so that all of Ellison's cards would cost at least 3 mana, making it really difficult for him to deploy very many spells at all. So Trinisphere seems like a pretty good card to bring in here. Magus of the Moon is also a card that can be useful, although it can be a little sketchy if Ellison has some number of Lightning Bolts still in his deck. Goblin Rabblemaster, I don't think is going to be a card that Jeff wants, but if Jeff wants to bring out more of his combo pieces and some of his ramp, if he wants to take out the Through the Breaches and the Seething Songs, for example, and wants to play a little bit more of a fair game, then Goblin Rabblemaster is going to be good for that sort of situation.
That sounds good. Now on Ellison's side with Teamer Delver, we've got 2 Submerge, 2 Pyroblast, 2 Sulfuric Vortex, 2 copies of Grafdigger's Cage, a Flusterstorm, a Pithy Needle, an Ancient Grudge, a Croson Grip, a Vendean Click, and 2 copies of Rough Tumble. What do we think Ellison's going to do here? He didn't see much, but he did get to see Big Daddy Inferno Titan.
Yeah, so he didn't get to see much, and this isn't a particularly common deck that Jeff is playing, so I doubt Ellison is able to really draft up a full deck list in his head to know what he's up against. But he saw the key things, the Chalice, the Titan, and the extra mana, so I think he has a pretty good idea of what he needs to do. He's going to need Ancient Grudge and Croson Grip to potentially deal with the Chalices. He may also want the Vendilion Click just as a flying attacker that is going to be able to snipe one of those fatties that are sitting in Jeff's hands. And also, he may want to bring in Flusterstorm just to deal with the rituals. If those are what you're leading up to, you're going to have a bit of a storm count, and Flusterstorm is going to be a pretty powerful counter spell. He may also bring in Pithy Needle. He saw the 1 land that is able to be used as a land destruction spell, the Sandstone Needle. So he may want to bring in that, but little unclear.
It also gives him some interaction for Sneak Attack.
Yeah.
He didn't see it, but
he probably imagines that it's there.
I mean, you're not playing Sandstone Needle in Legacy and not having Sneak Attack in your deck.
Yeah.
So while we wait for our players to get ready for this next game, just really quick, I want to talk about our shirts. So StarCityGames.com, we do have some official shirts. 50% cotton, 50% polyester, 100% awesome.
You know what? I don't even see any of that. I just see Tom Ross and that
male model Tom Ross.
Yeah, the death stare. I mean, he's like he's got that blue steel glare. Just quite the model there. I hope we see him with more Star City swag in those ads.
So these games can go quick. So let's jump in. Ellison's going to lead on a Volcanic Island and a Delver of Secrets. Jeff's going to have a Sandstone Needle and pass back, which is going to get wastelanded. Ellison is going to ponder. He didn't flip his Delver this turn, but I imagine it's going to flip next turn. And it looks like Ellison is in a very good spot right now.
Yeah, this is exactly how Ellison wants to do things. He is able to filter his draw a little bit. He's able to get a threat onto the board before anything really happens. And now he's just going to want to disrupt Jeff's mana and set himself up to maybe daze or force of will Jeff's big plays.
Yeah, really with this Delver, and he's going to shuffle, so we don't even know if the Delver is going to flip next turn. That, I guess, has to be good news for Jeff. But again, when you're facing down a Delver of Secrets after getting Wasteland, not a lot of news is going to be good news.
Yeah, and Delver usually has, not much less than a 50-50 chance to flip in the Teamer builds. They're usually very light on lands and very light on creatures.
So we're just going to see another Sandstone Needle and then a pass from Jeff.
And that's pretty good for Jeff to know about. Even if he loses this game, just having that information is pretty important. Ancient Grudge.
The Delver's going to go ahead and flip here after revealing an Ancient Grudge. We're going to get another Wasteland from Ellison, and this is going to be real rough from Jeff. It does look like he has a Trinisphere in his hand, so he did go that route, but he doesn't have any more lands, and Ellison is just in the driver's seat. He's basically doing his Delver do.
Yeah, Jeff's draw has not been particularly great. Usually the criticism of decks like Jeff, or archetypes like Jeff's in general, is that because they don't have blue, they don't have much card draw, ways to filter their draw, make it so that it lines up properly. So you have draws like the previous game where Jeff had what he needed and it was explosive and it looked great, but sometimes you also have this inconsistency where his deck doesn't really do very much. And now Ellison is way ahead on the board. He's got quite the clock, and Ellison only needs to disrupt Jeff for a couple more turns before closing out the game.
So Ellison is just going to send in his Delver for 3, knocking Jeff down to 13. He's going to use the fetch land, falling to 19 himself, to play a 2/3 Tarmogoyf. And Jeff is going to go ahead and just cast a sneak attack here off of an Ancient Tomb, a Simian Spirit Guide, and a Lotus Petal. Ellison's going to show him a way to stop that. Looks like it was a daze, and Jeff's just going to scoop it up. So just as quickly as he won Game 1, he also lost Game 2. Going to tie it up here 1-1 against Ellison. This match is going to be lightning fast for the most part.
Yeah.
Because when Jeff wins, he's just going to stomp all over Ellison, and when Jeff loses, he's just not going to have much going on, and Ellison's going to be able to close it out pretty quickly.
Yeah, one thing that's also interesting about this matchup is Teamer Delver, one of the things that's good about it is it's usually good at preying on other combo decks. Jeff's combo deck is a little unique in that it's a combo deck that's set up kind of well to beat Delver deck. I mean, some of the cards that it's playing can just completely lock out the Teamer Delver deck without having to invest a whole lot. For example, Blood Moon is something that the Delver deck really can't deal with. They have no basics in their whole deck. If you resolve a Blood Moon and the Teamer Delver doesn't have green mana floating, then that Crossing Grip is just not going to be able to happen. And Ellison only has one Crossing Grip, I believe. So Jeff is able to just have a lot more game without having as many cards needed to pull it off.
He just has to make sure he can get it on the battlefield before Ellison is able to land a threat. Now, in the meantime, while Jeff and Ellison finish shuffling up for Game 3, let's talk real quick about the YouTube or the StarCityGames.com YouTube channel.
Oh, sweet.
So youtube.com/StarCityGames, where you can find basically everything. So Versus Series archives, Premium archives, SCG Tour archives, unboxings, so much more.
Yeah, really, really great. Having stuff like this is awesome. I know for me specifically, I'll be working in my studio for all day, every day, and I'll have music playing a lot of the times. I'll have coverage from tournaments playing sometimes, and sometimes I'll just put these on in the background. It's a great way to just absorb Magic information, and it's definitely a great way to level up your skill.
Yep, again, it's absolutely free to like and subscribe to the StarCityGames.com YouTube channel. Again, youtube.com/StarCityGames. So as we come back here, for those of you just joining us, Jeff Hoogland is on All In Red, currently 2-0, tied up 1-1 against Ellison Berryhill, who's on Teamer Delver, also 2-0. Ellison, however, had to get there the hard way. Jeff is coming off his 2 byes as he's currently in first place on our leaderboard. He's basically all but locked up qualifying spot for this Players' Championship. He does have to be in the top 3 points earners at the end of the Invitational here in 3 weeks.
Yeah, two great players playing some great Magic, and I have to say that I'm a little torn between who's going to win this match. I really like Jeff because of all of his brews.
No, he's got the Force of Will.
But Teamer Delver is one of my favorite decks, so I feel like I'm rooting for both, but that's not really rooting for either.
So Jeff's gone ahead and just went for a turn 1 Blood Moon with a City of Traders and a Simian Spirit Guide. Ellison did have a Force of Will, pitching a Ponder, going down to 19. And while he was looking through his hand, it looked like he had 2 copies of Force of Will, which is going to spell bad news for Jeff Hoogland.
Yeah, the other thing that's a little bad for Jeff is he started with the City of Traders, so that means his next land drop is going to cause that city to go away. Hopefully Jeff is able to follow it up with another big play, and if he is able to do that, that would essentially mean that the City of Traders won't be needed on turn 3. But if Ellison has another Force, it may be otherwise.
So it looks like Jeff does have a Chalice of the Void. So this is either going to get Dazed or Forces, because it looks like he has both. That's just bad news for Jeff.
And this is exactly how the Teamer Delver deck wants to play. It wants to have 1 threat and then all disruption. It doesn't have much card advantage. Wow, another Force of Will.
So we're going to get a Force of Will.
Top deck
flipping off
hero!
the top for the Delver. Ellison is going to be down to 17 off the 2 Forces in the fetch, but he does have a Tropical Island, 2 Delvers on the battlefield now, and another Force of Will in his hand.
Man, his draw was just triple Delver, triple Force.
Well, how can you go wrong with that?
You can in Legacy.
And now we've got a Lightning Bolt. It's going to flip the other Delver.
Now he wants Jeff to resolve that Blood Moon so he can bolt him.
Yeah. All right, so Jeff's going to draw. He does have a Simian Spirit Guide. That's going to get a sneak attack on the battlefield. That City of Traders is going to go away.
Yeah.
But Jeff is going to be able to use that sneak attack next turn with that Mountain.
And did we see another? Oh, Spell Pierce is what got cost.
Oh, so he had a Spell Pierce in his hand too?
So this is really bad for Jeff, and he's going to be scooping it up.
So we saw there the classic getting Delvered.
Yeah,
I like to call that.
This is exactly why you would want to play a Delver deck in Legacy. Is just you get to play the aggro deck against all of the combo decks.